And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, broadcasting, podcasting live from YouTube Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University, both channels, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. And you can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, and that is at Coffee Talk Chat. As we get ready to dive into what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some snippets from the news and having a bit of discussion with the people that have been able to join us in the live portion. And as always, I do read through as many of the comments as is reasonable for the benefit of those who are listening and not able to see what is going on. And I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that have chimed in so far. I see Helter is here today, as well as Dragon and Puck, who says that today is his birthday, as well as Clint Eastwood. Well, happy birthday, Puck. And Cyberjack Sr. and New York have joined us thus far, being joined by one feline today. If you are able to see, there is a little girl sleeping in the chair behind me. And I don't think there's any other felines in the room right now. Little girl is all I've got, and that's fine. As you get ready to dive into the world of the ridiculous, and by that I mean the media, and Pot Nostalgic wants to know if anything big happened in the news lately. Sure. As you may well know, I'm sure, because it's been blown up all over the place, and there's a lot of interesting talking points with this. As we go through our restream transition, and hopefully it doesn't crap, Donald Trump has been indicted on 34 separate charges. Indicted on 34 separate charges. And this is, it really doesn't hurt him, but it is major for a variety of reasons that we're going to get into here. And Monkey is here as well. Glad you could join us today. You may have heard this yesterday. They indicted him. And this is a Newsweek article that I have opened up, and we'll talk about this. It says news reacted to Donald Trump's guilty verdict, and they're more specifically targeting Fox. I don't know why one news agency has to sit and talk about another. And Armored Ghost said lots of Democrats celebrating at happy hour today. Yes, they are. And that's one thing that I noticed that's really interesting about all of this is that the human capacity to gloat. I've been seeing a nonstop stream of memes and other articles just making fun of this, laughing at him, trying to rub it in people's faces. And like I said, it's not as bad as it looks on its face. It's not as bad as it looks for Trump, because even if they put him in jail, he can still run for president. It's happened twice before. There have been two presidential candidates in the past that have run for president while incarcerated. The Constitution doesn't prohibit it. Not only that, he's not likely to go to jail. And furthermore, he's very likely to overturn this on an appeal, which I believe has already been approved for him to be able to appeal. And I see Ragnar is here, as well as David Jones, all the way from Canada. Glad you could make it today. But yeah, there is a huge capacity, unfortunately, in the human animal to gloat. And we're seeing a lot of that. They love rubbing salt in your wounds. I've seen tons and tons of memes and other shorts and other things making fun of this. Ha ha, your God, Donald Trump has been indicted, and blah, blah. And they don't even really know what's going on or why it happened. And they're not seeing past the veneer of the indictment itself, which is going down a very troublesome road. Even Mike Pence, who turned on Donald Trump, you remember the former vice president, has been very vocal about this, about how disgraceful the whole operation has been. But and again, if something bad happened to Biden, I pick on Biden all the time in the podcast. I really do. But if it all blew up in his face, I don't think I would sit there and make fun of people for having supported him. Do you know what I mean? But some people just can't help themselves. And I see Stuart has joined us today. Thanks for popping in. Glad you could make it. But we'll take a look at this really quickly. Again, this is Newsweek. It says the moment Fox News told its viewers former President Donald Trump had been found guilty in his hush money trial is making the rounds online. In the video, the network showed the outside of New York courtroom where the verdict was being read while anchors relayed messages from producers inside. Quote, our producers inside say that the jury is back in the room. The judge Merkin is back on the bench. The presenter said, adding, it looks like we have some of the verdict coming in. It's quickly coming in here from inside. We're starting to hear that there are guilty verdicts. In the background, cheers, seemingly from outside the courthouse, can be heard as the announcement is made. On May 30th, Trump was found guilty on 34 felony counts of falsifying business records to conceal a hush money payment made to the adult film star Stormy Daniels. Ahead of the 2016 election, the former president, who pleaded not guilty to all charges, has a sentencing hearing scheduled for July 11th. For whatever good that does, because again, odds are he's not going to see a day of jail time. And even if he did, he would be able to run for president from behind bars. They can't stop him. They can't legally stop him from doing it. And also, that would further build Trump up. People would love him even more if he was sitting in jail at this point. So, yeah, this is a lot of padding, this particular article. A lot of padding and a lot of talking about what Fox News had to say. I don't care what Fox News had to say about it. I care about what I know about it. And I'm going to get into this in a minute because I think a lot of people really don't understand what they did. Don't understand what they did. Monkey says people don't realize this sets a precedence for future cases like this to happen. True. And he says, plus, where I've been seeing it might have helped him even more. And Helter said the problem is if they do this to a former president, only imagine what could be done to regular citizens, which is my argument. And it's also, as I've stated many times, talking about Donald Trump and this entire thing, all these trials and the nonsense with Fani Willis in Georgia and this trial. The problem is the more they try to weaponize the justice system against him and try to embarrass him in that way, the more the average American identifies with him, because many of us, myself included, feel like we were railroaded by the justice system at some point or another. I've been screwed over in court. I've been screwed over in court. I may not have anything else in common with Donald Trump, but I've got this. And there's a lot of people who can empathize with him now. Stewart says, my condolences to all Americans. Indeed. Dragon says the Democrats don't care how much damage they do to the country as long as they can prosecute Trump. They're afraid that Trump has a high chance of winning and that he will come after them, which would be tit for tat. I read the article a few weeks back where Kamala Harris was on The View, and when she was on The View, she had stated, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit because I don't remember exactly the wording, but she had paraphrased that we can't let Donald Trump win because he'll weaponize the Justice Department against us. And it's like, basically you're saying you're afraid he's going to have tit for tat, that he's going to do to you what you've done to him. That's what you say that you're afraid of. And Brian is here, as well as Boogers, who extends his birthday greetings to Puck back here, who said he had a birthday today. But yeah, it does set a precedence. And again, if they're going to do that to somebody who's so high profile over basically nothing, what are they going to do to you? So what is it exactly that has happened here? And I'm gonna demonstrate it with another article really quickly. I'm going to go to PolitiFact. Is it PolitiFact? PolitiFact. And I'm going to show you what they did, because I think a lot of people don't understand. And this is also the danger of dealing with a jury. You all know I don't like juries. I've talked about it before. I've been on jury duty a few times, and I've been the 12th man, and I've seen how bad it is. Jurors are a bunch of knuckleheads. They're morons, okay? Morons who don't want to be there, that have basically been conscripted through rule of law to sit in a jury box for however long, and all they want to do is go home. And they also have this premise that if you're in court, you probably did something wrong anyways, even if it's not this, and they're going to stick it to you anyways. How many people have been wrongfully incarcerated in a jury trial? I read their stories on here all the time. Monkey says, I'm surprised they didn't even go the JFK method at this point, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And Puck says, Democrats are counting on weak Republicans to not respond in kind. That's been the precedent for decades. Oh, and Fluke Man is here. Yes, we are talking about Donald Trump. So we go to PolitiFact to explain what the hell happened. Trump's indictment explained, falsifying business records, prosecutors, challengers, and what's next. Okay. So he pleaded guilty and not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records in the first degree during a court appearance in Lower Manhattan. It was not televised. The charges from a grand jury stem from a payment to adult film actor Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election, as well as attempts to buy the silence of two other people. Blah, blah, blah. And we all know what that is. Basically, he made a non-disclosure agreement, or his attorneys did, and she took the money. There's nothing illegal about that unless somebody violates that agreement, which Stormy Daniels did, but I don't believe she was ever brought to court for that. Now, what is the crime? The crime of falsifying business records is included in New York's penal code. Falsifying records in the second degree is a misdemeanor. All right. So basically, what they're saying is that somehow or other, the non-disclosure agreements were doctored or falsified, which there's really no evidence of. To my understanding, there's no evidence of this. Okay. So it's a misdemeanor. However, it can become a felony. And again, this is PolitiFact I'm reading here, explaining this. It can become a felony if the person falsified those records with the intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission of a crime. Okay. And it says Bragg used the felony stature to charge Trump 34 times. The number of charges refers to 34 documents the grand jury found to have contained a critical, what they considered to be rather a critical false statement related to payments. The documents include checks written to Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former lawyer, as payment for legal services over a 9-month period, blah, blah, blah. Just for example, that means that if he wrote 9 checks, those 9 checks count as 9 of the 34 documents, is what it is. So it's really one charge, but they nitpick the hell out of it until it turns into 34 charges. Theoretically, they would be misdemeanors, but they wanted to blow the misdemeanors up. And this judge is the initial person that wanted to push this wouldn't do it because he didn't think it was going to go anywhere with it. And Bragg wanted to pick it up. So it apparently made it stick. Now, they can make that misdemeanor into a felony if you can prove somehow that the reason that those documents were altered, which I don't see how they were altered. How do you alter a check after it's been cashed? Let's just put it that way. If 9 of these documents are actually considered part of this indictment. So if you had altered these somehow with the intent of committing some greater crime, then they could make it a felony, and it's not. And Trump didn't directly do anything. There's nothing to connect him here. Flukeman says, do you think they've made the sleeping giant angry? If by the sleeping giant you mean the American people, yeah, I think so. Because a lot of people are pretty pissed off that this even happened. And again, going back to juries and jury trials, those people don't understand all that legalese, even if you sit there in court and explain it to them. Even if you sit there and explain it to them, they don't get it. They don't understand what the hell you're talking about. If they're even paying attention, they're fighting sleep all day anyways. They're fighting sleep all day. Barely paying attention to what's going on. An unknown nose is here today, also extending a birthday greeting. And Puck says, PolitiFact is always a little light on facts. Prosecution failed to connect Trump to the payment. That was all Cohen. Yeah, there you go. And which means, of course, that even if Trump was guilty because he ordered Cohen to do something, if you can't prove he ordered Cohen to do a certain thing a certain way, then you cannot prove guilt. But like I said, very often a jury will assume guilt, even if you can't prove it, but you're supposed to go entirely off of facts, which rarely happens in court. That's what's going on. That's what's going on. And this is a joke, and it's never been done. This has never really happened before. This has never really happened before. They've set a precedence, and it's a dangerous one. This is Banana Republic stuff that we're looking at here now, where, oh, you don't like a political opponent? Well, we'll bury him with the legal system. We'll come up with something. We'll twist the law. They twisted the law to turn those misdemeanors into felony charges, and they really can't. They really don't even have very much ground to stand on as far as misdemeanors would be concerned. But they made it work. The district attorney who pushed this got elected on the platform that he would pursue Trump. Well, congratulations. Congratulations. You did what they hired you for. Puck says he can't see everyone's comments. Really? Well, I know there's something weird that goes on with YouTube in the comments section, and there's something you're supposed to do. Hungry Prepper says none of the libs on YouTube can tell them anything good about Biden. Can you or anyone else in here tell me? Well, I've never seen anyone with a Build Back Better hat. Have you? They never talk about how good Trump is. Excuse me, I got that backwards. They never talk about how good Biden is. All they do is talk about how much they hate Trump. Flukeman says in your previous podcast, people can create fake documents when whistleblowers delete themselves. Can they fake the bank check? If it's already been sent to the bank and cashed, I doubt it. You can fake a check that was electronic. I don't know because even if you did it electronically, it still has to be scanned, and the bank itself would still have a record. They could change their records, but not the records that are at the bank. You see what I mean? And the bank would have a direct copy, and then that would be counterfeiting. They could get them on a counterfeiting charge, which they did not do. And Chocolate Thunder is there. Glad you could join us today. Monkey says, the good thing Biden does is make me cringe on the inside. Is that good? And Dragon said, this is what happens when the party that claims to be law and order are proven once again to be disingenuous. Rules for thee, not for me. Yeah, pretty much that's what it boils down to. And as I pointed out, even Mike Pence, who turned on Trump, is disgusted by this, and he's concerned. Fox News article, disservice to the nation, former Vice President Pence breaks his silence on Trump's conviction. So former Vice President Mike Pence reacted Friday to the criminal conviction of former President Donald Trump in a New York City courtroom and said a terrible message has been sent. Quote, and these are quotes from Pence, the conviction of former President Trump on politically motivated charges is an outrage and a disservice to the nation. No one is above the law. Yeah, the hell they are, Pence. I got to interject there. There are some people that are above the law. Man, I could rattle off some names right now, but you know what I mean. No one is above the law, but our courts must not become a tool to be used against political opponents. Pence continues. To millions of Americans, this was nothing more than a political prosecution driven by a Manhattan district attorney who ran for office on a pledge to indict the former president, and this conviction undermines confidence in our system of justice. And that's what I was just talking about. The DA ran on that platform, and that's how come they helped to get him elected in the first place. And I don't know what planet Pence has been on, but the American people already don't trust the justice system. I sure as hell don't. I don't know who does. It says, it continues, more quotes. This conviction also sends a terrible message to the wider world about the American justice system and only further divides us at a time when the American people are struggling under the failed policies of the Biden administration at home and abroad. Having been convicted in a court of law, the former president has every right to appeal this conviction, and I trust it will be overturned on appeal in a manner that will restore public confidence in our system of justice and equal treatment under the law. If he gets his appeal, it won't restore confidence in the system of justice because this shouldn't have happened in the first place. And it shouldn't happen to other people. I shouldn't be reading articles almost every week about some poor bum who's been in prison for 10, 20, 30 years that was released because of an innocence project that defended him, showing that there was never any evidence that they committed a crime in the first place, or that other evidence was found that showed that they were innocent, but that the courts refused to look at it because they're like old dudes in jail, so screw him. The justice system does not work. It may be better than it is in a lot of other countries, but it doesn't work. It's still got problems. And it goes on to say Trump was found guilty on Thursday on all counts in his historic and unprecedented, and underline that word, unprecedented criminal trial. Because, again, this has never happened, making him the first former president of the United States to be convicted of a crime. And part of the reason, because you could make arguments that Obama should have been brought on trial for things, that Clinton should have been brought on trial, that Bush Jr. should have been brought on trial for this, that, and the other. They typically don't go after a former president because it would set a precedent for every ex-president to be brought up on charges at one point or another if it made sense politically to do so. So now they've opened Pandora's box with this. Back to the article here really quick. Quote again, this was a disgrace. This was a rigged trial by a conflicted judge who was corrupt, and a rigged trial and disgrace. As a rigged trial, and disgrace. It wouldn't give us a venue change. And this is Trump's quote. We were at 5 or 6% in the district in this area. This was rigged. It was a disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. By the people. And there's Pence, in case you forgot what he looked like. As I catch up a couple of the comments really quick. Brian says liberals won't rest and stop looking for things to use against Trump until they've completely destroyed him, probably because they know if he gets reelected, he will do a much better job than who we have now. Well, I mean, love him or hate him, things were better when Trump was in office. It's as simple as that. A lot of people don't like him because they think he's rude or arrogant or whatever. I don't care if he's arrogant as long as he does the damn job. It's as simple as that. And Puck says, yeah, thanks a lot, Pence. Yeah, a little too late, right? Maybe he's afraid they'll come after him next. And he said, did you know that Merrick Garland was the DA at the Oklahoma City bombing trial? Was he? And Monkey says, what will the appeal process do? Just curious, since is it to see if the verdict was unjustified, basically? Yeah, I mean, the purpose of the appeal is you're going in and you're saying this wasn't done right, and we want this to be examined properly. And as Trump pointed out, they set him up also because they did try him in a district where they knew they wouldn't find people that liked him. So, jury of your peers and all that, right? Jury of your peers. No one is that man's peer. How many business moguls do you think were sitting in that jury box? None, maybe? And Chillin' Dave has joined us. Glad you could join us today. Flukeman says, be in the witch hunter's best interest to make every conviction stick. If it gets overturned, their names will be dragged through the mud. They'll never work again other than ask, would you like fries with that? Oh, yeah. I don't know if I want them on the fryer. And Brian says, liberals make fun of Trump's appearance, so they're not on high moral ground. If you recall, even during the time that Donald Trump was running for president, he was relentlessly mocked. I remember a helium balloon, a giant-size helium balloon. It was like 20 or 30 feet long of him naked. I remember a nude statue of him with a micro-sized penis on it that was set up somewhere. You might recall this. People were taking selfies with it. They did nothing but mock him. There was a cartoon of him and Putin having sex. Who remembers that? Who remembers that? And then what they do is, and I'm going to open this article up. This is one more on the subject because this ties in with the way that they try to manipulate you. Right, Miss Kitty? Yeah, I'll let you see Miss Kitty. If you're looking, there she is. Miss Kitty rarely comes into the room. She doesn't like being around other cats. So it's interesting for her to be in here while little girl's in the room. She usually avoids everybody. But this is one of those types of articles where they're trying to make it seem like there's a ripple effect. So I'm gonna show you here. Let me get this open, and this is what a Barron's article. So it's a business article, Barron's. DJT stock dives after Trump found guilty on all 34 charges. So they're implying that his stock has crashed. And I'm going to read the article, and then I'm going to show you the stock, and then I'm going to show you where they're lying in this article. They're not even trying to tell the truth. Monkey says they called him orange. They're the real racists against oranges, I guess. And Brian says that's very adult of them. And Chillin' Dave says, I remember DT standing in North Korea. Yeah, orange man bad to orange man mad. But here we go. Trump's media and technology group stock fell in after hours trading after the jury in Donald Trump's trial delivered a guilty verdict in all 34 charges. Trump media shares were down 7.4% to $48 around 5:30 p.m. The stock closed up 1.1 on Thursday. And they go on to tell you about his conviction, blah, 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 blah. We already know all about the conviction, but Barron's here, which is, we talk about business, we talk about the stock market. That's what kind of news agency this is. Tells you his stock fell. It fell 7.4% to $48. That isn't true. And I'm going to show you here. I'm going to pull up his stock, the DJT stock portfolio, and I'm going to show you, and I'm going to explain it. Let me get that ticker up here, and I'll pull up the week. Okay, I'll pull it up for the week. And there's an important thing to understand about stocks, and that's basically that they're a roller coaster. They go up and down all the time. I remember it going. It goes up it goes up and down all the time. But here we go. They said it fell to $48. All right. Here comes the ticker. It was at 51.92. Okay. After the verdict, it hits 48.43. So a difference of about almost $3.50. Okay. A difference of about $3.50. And since then has recovered almost $1 up to 49. It's recovered about 75 cents or so. So that 7.4% drop is expected after a bad announcement. The reason it's expected is because you usually assume that roughly 10% of your stockholders are going to be speculative buyers. Speculative buyers, if they think something's wrong, they're going to dump a stock. Okay. And so 7.4, that's less than an average of 10%. They took off, good riddance. It doesn't hurt the stock, especially when you consider this is a new stock. We go back, you see back here, it's at 44.39, and it's been steadily going up. One dip there, one dip here, which was yesterday, to 48.43, and currently, as of the time that we're talking, 49.24. That's not a significant dip by any means. It's not a significant dip. Also, that dip put it at 48.43, not 48. You don't round when you're talking about these kind of numbers. So for Barron's to say it fell to 48 and there's no evidence of it getting that low, that's misleading. That's very misleading. Puck says, I think that the deep state is hoping to provoke Trump supporters into violent protests. That could be. Because there's only so much people can take, and then you've got the French Revolution on your hands. Kimberly says, what I found amusing was the prosecuting attorney said Trump interfered in the 2016 election by doing A, B, C, and etc. If he would have interfered to the extent they accused him of, he would have won. Oh yeah, there you go. He would have won. And Puck says the drop could have been from institutional investors. That's possible too. Now, I mean, if it was at, like I said, just before the verdict was announced, it was at 51.92, almost $52. Almost $52. If suddenly an hour later it's like 26, you're in trouble. Okay? You're in trouble. A dip of 7.4%, which only amounted to about less than $3.50 difference. Not that significant, especially since it's up to 49.26 right now. It's gone up again 2 cents since I pulled this open. So 48.96. Oh, it went up again. No, I'm reading the wrong one. 49.26. 49.26 is where it currently is. All that's normal for the stock market. It's like a roller coaster. And Bloomberg, they make it sound like his stock is taking a bath. And it's just not true. And that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And without even emphasizing on it, they didn't tell you what the former high number was before the dip. They didn't give you any speculation as to why there might be a dip. And then they weren't even accurate with the number, saying it fell to 48. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. It did not get that low. And this is not the kind of thing, again, when you're dealing with stocks, every penny counts. They typically don't round numbers. So that's kind of shady. That's kind of shady. Puck says, now compare that to Disney stock after Peltz sold all of his Disney stock the other day. Disney stock, did he? Did he sell his stock? Because yeah, if somebody who's in charge of a stock sells, that can cause people. Yeah, I opened it up really quick. It went from a $102.99, or no, 100, excuse me, $103.27 to 102.42, and it's currently 102.96. So that it's not that significant. I wouldn't, it's only a couple of dollars. It's only a couple of dollars that it's reflecting there. But yeah, that doesn't that's not significant. That's pretty shady of them to approach it that way. And speaking of shady, I want to follow up on a story from yesterday. We're going to jump to North Korea, Associated Press article, and this is important to point out. Well, Puck says he sold at 120. Yeah, that's because actually that's not a bad move, because if you look at the month-long stock report, for him, for the Disney stock, for the DIS, if you open that up, it was at 116 in May and fell to 102. And it stayed around 102 for over a month. And it's only just starting to pick back up. But back to North Korea here. It says North Korea's trash rains onto South Korea balloon by balloon. Here's what it means. Now, the reason I wanted to get back to this is because, I didn't know this was a thing. Because it says that so far in the article, they point out since Tuesday night, about 260 balloons. It was 150 in yesterday's article. Now it's 260. Balloons flown from North Korea have been discovered across South Korea. There's no apparent danger. Military said an initial investigation showed that the trash tied to the balloons doesn't contain any dangerous substances like chemicals, biological, or radioactive materials. Although it is full of feces and sewage, I would call that biological. But what are you going to do? There have been no reports of damages in South Korea. Now, the reason that I'm revisiting this is because apparently South Korea has been doing this since 2016. And for some reason, it hasn't been in the media, and that's why everybody's shocked about it. But it goes on to say here, in 2016, North Korean balloons carrying trash, compact discs, and propaganda leaflets caused damage to cars and other property in South Korea. In 2017, South Korea found suspected North Korean balloons with leaflets again. Blah, blah, blah. So this is an ongoing little tit-for-tat bullshit thing going on between North Korea and South Korea that's been going on for years. It's been going on for years. And like I said, I guess most people in the West would not be aware of this. I wasn't aware of it, after reading the article yesterday. And it's like, what the hell do they think they're doing? So I wanted to investigate it a little bit more. And yeah, they've been doing that. They've been sending balloons full of garbage, or like they said, leaflets or CDs, which South Korea also does, sending balloons over North Korea with flyers telling them, I don't know, overthrow your government or whatever. This is a really common practice, apparently. Puck says North Korea is trolling South Korea, basically. Helter says this is North Korea's way of showing stealth for serious situations maybe to come. Soon these balloons could have tinges of chemicals and diseases brewing into a childish war. And Chillin says North Korea sees leaflets as shit, so payback. Pretty much. I mean, that's stepping it up a bit, though. I can understand, leaflets, flyers, discs, other forms of propaganda, but garbage, sewage, excrement, um, dead batteries. They said yesterday there were bags with dead batteries in them. It's kind of pathetic. And here's an example of some of the balloons full of, I don't know what's in that one. I don't know if this is South Korea sending balloons north as opposed to the North Korean balloons. I think they use round ones. So this must be South Korea here sending balloons over north. And they put a little explosive pack to make the bag burst so that the flyers fall on people or overpopulated areas. And Puck says they're equating South Korea propaganda to garbage, pretty much. That is very adolescent-minded, though, to fill bags essentially with poop as an answer to their leaflets. And Armored Ghost says South Korea poisoned itself with excessive K-pop culture. Did they? Are any of them still alive, or did they kill themselves? I shouldn't joke, but I know that there's been a lot of suicides within that culture. A lot of suicides within that culture related to the music. And speaking of messes, and I'm going to jump back to the United States here really quick because I wanted to make a point about this. And Flukeman speculates that North Korea might be testing the water. Maybe. Because you can do a lot with a balloon. You'd be surprised. You can do a lot with a balloon. But speaking of making a mess, and there's a reason why I opened this one up. Fox News says anti-Israel encampment at Wayne State University dismantled, police arrest 8 protesters. You've seen all of this. Anti-Israel encampment at Wayne State University in Detroit dismantled by police Thursday, resulting in the arrests of 8 protesters during ensuing clashes with authorities on campus. Of the 8 protesters arrested, 6 were arrested for trespassing. 1 was arrested for resisting and obstructing, and 1 was arrested for assault and battery on a police officer. Oh, he's in trouble. Matt Lockwood, the university's associate vice president of communication, confirmed. Okay. Now, what's interesting right there, before I even get into why I opened this, they arrested 8 people. 6 of them were arrested for trespassing. That's an indication to me that they are not from that university. Again, many of the university agitators and college agitators that we have seen in these university protests are not even from these universities. They're just there to stir up mess. So they got arrested for trespassing. It says some protesters were seen clashing with police dressed in riot gear in video that news crews captured while on campus. Cleanup crews have been seen removing dozens of tents and hauling away bags filled with trash that accumulated at the encampment. And that's why I'm here. Here is a drone aerial shot, for those of you who can see, of where they had dug themselves in. Excuse me. Look at that mess. Look at all that trash, where you can see a handful of tents, about a dozen or so tents, and piles of garbage. What is it with these protesters that they always leave a damn mess? Why they got to be pigs? You can't be neat and clean about what you're doing? How am I supposed to take you seriously? How am I supposed to take you seriously when you're living like that? You're going to go out there and make a damn mess. Bad enough that the majority of the people from the campuses that are participating in this are from some of the universities, represent some of the university's wealthiest and well-to-do students. And the fact that a good portion of the people in these encampments with these students aren't even from the universities or colleges. So you're going to come here and make a mess. It makes me think of the Keystone Pipeline. You all remember the protests about the Keystone Pipeline during the Trump administration. And when those people left, all these indigenous Indians and they're protesting the pipeline, and they're trying to preserve the land. Do you recall the huge mess that they left behind that protest? You're protecting the land, but you left a littered landscape nearly 2 miles wide, filled with garbage and human waste. But you're protecting your land. Sure you are. I'd love to know. You got to wonder about the mentality of people like this. You got to wonder about that. Chillin says, how about the guy stabbing 4 girls in a theater in Massachusetts? I didn't hear that, but I do have something to say about Massachusetts here in a minute, actually. And Fluke Man says, and they complain about climate change. Yeah, they've got the nerve to complain. They've got the nerve to complain, but this is what they do. Here's another shot. After the fact, look at the mess. Look at how they live. Look at how they live. And you have a nerve to complain. And you want to force me to get an electric car to save the planet. You want me to recycle plastic. Don't even get me started. Some of you have seen the video I did just recently, last week actually, talking about plastic recycling, because I was able to use the EPA's own website to demonstrate that plastic really can't be recycled. And the government and the media have been lying to us for about 50 years about plastic recycling. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Almost all of it ends up getting shredded and sent to landfill. Why are we paying billions of dollars for plastic recycling? But yeah, they want you to drive an electric car. They want you to eat bugs, but they live like this. And again, many of the students involved in this represent the wealthiest and most well-to-do students in these colleges and universities. But, you know, they're the ones that have the time to do this sort of a thing, to protest as a hobby, professionally protest as a hobby, because real students who are trying to learn anything, not too much they can learn in college any more than public school, really. Unfortunately, great halls of higher education, they are not anymore, not really. Oh, and Fluke Man says, when I said, look at the mess left behind by protesters, we can't see what you're seeing on the screen. You couldn't see it? It was aerial shots. Did you got, who else saw that? Anybody? Could you see the aerial shots? Or it's hard to see it? It's probably hard to tell. Well, I'll throw it back up there real quick. Or that's another aerial shot of the mess that's left in the area. And Puck says California's taxing you on the miles you drive. Yes. Taxing. I've heard that. They've thrown that. A lot of states have kicked that around for years, taxing you on mileage. That's ridiculous. Taxing you on the mileage, which I can't see how they'll even make that stick, and that'll cause a lot of problems when it comes to like delivery services or transportation of goods, things like that. Most trucking companies are already taxed to death. Nature Nerd says California's a big state, taxing you on mileage wouldn't work. Well, I mean, that just encouraged more people to leave the state. Oh, by the way, another video up yesterday on Coffee Talk talking about Walmart. Because it's, you know, I've done a couple of shorts on Walmart. Just plug that really quickly here, because I did 2 videos on Coffee Talk this week. And of course, you're probably not getting the notifications. Hardly anyone has seen these videos, unfortunately, but that's what ScrewTube does to you. Suppresses your channel and suppresses the content that you put up. But talking about Walmart specifically, and out of the context of the comment sections where people are constantly telling me, because I've done a couple of shorts showing basically fully automated checkouts at Walmarts where there are no cashiers at all. We're seeing more and more of this in the Atlanta area. And people are telling me, well, Walmart's doing away with that. Walmart is going to get rid of all of their self-checkouts and on and on. And, that isn't true. That isn't true. And I show some evidence of that, including Walmart corporate's own website, where they do not talk about, there's nothing on Walmart corporate's website about walking back any self-checkouts anywhere. The news stories that you've been seeing about Walmart scaling back self-checkout, 2 stores in 2 different states, one in St. Louis and one in Baltimore, are shutting off the self-checkouts because of high theft. And for the record, there are 4,616 Walmarts in the United States. And that's not counting Sam's Club or Walmart grocers. They're not getting rid of anything. And Rodney is here and made a donation to the channel. Thank you, Rodney. Kitty appreciates it. His little girl sitting in the chair behind me. Every little bit goes a long way, Rodney. We very much appreciate it for all of the shelter pets that we take care of. Kimberly says, would they allow commuting miles as an itemized deduction? My guess is hard. No, I doubt that. And Flukeman says, what about non-LGB tax, poor tax, children per tax, Trump supporter tax? Yeah, there you go. And Nature Nerd says, how much would shipping and ordering be from the internet go up if states taxed by the mile? Yeah, it would crush stores, especially local businesses, would be crushed if they started taxing by the mile. That just makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. We're going to jump back to Michelle Wu. You remember Michelle Wu, don't you? We talked about her yesterday, actually. She is the mayor of Boston. The mayor of Boston. And she's got an even dumber idea, an even stupider, super dripping wet liberal idea here that she's trying to push through. Daily Mail article, Michelle Wu is slammed as tone deaf for her plan to give children voting rights. Oh, that's brilliant. Hold still. The article moved. Boston's woke Democratic Mayor Michelle Wu, pictured, yes, we know that's who that is, has been labeled, quote, tone deaf and unserious for her plan to give young children and undocumented citizens the power to vote on the city's budget. During a city council committee hearing on Tuesday that reviewed her 2025 fiscal budget, Wu announced that the new budget voting process is open to the undocumented and children as young as 11 years old. Most 11-year-olds can't even decide what shirt to put on in the morning and whether 5 days is too long to go without brushing. After the meeting, enraged Boston City Councilor Ed Flynn wrote a letter to Renato Castello, the director of the Office of Participatory Budgeting, and expressed his concern with Wu's decision, allowing children to decide to the usage of taxpayer dollars would do just the opposite and be viewed as tone deaf, unserious, and wholly inappropriate by my constituents. Flynn wrote in the letter reviewed by the Boston Herald, during this time of great fiscal uncertainty, with a study warning that remote work policies and the city's declining commercial property values may cost us $500 million in revenue annually, as well as a subsequent proposal to also tax commercial property at a higher rate. Now more than ever, it is critical that we show the taxpayers of Boston that we take our financial responsibilities seriously, Flynn adds. This is brilliant. Again, I'm glad I moved from Massachusetts, because that just makes no sense. That makes no sense at all. And Puck thinks that Michelle Wu is a Chi-Com operative. And Hungry Prepper says, people say if Trump becomes president, they will move out of the USA. I told them if Biden's president again, I'm going to be Mexican. Well, you know what? Challenge them to it after they say it. If he becomes president, ask him if you can help them pack. They're not going anywhere, because I've been hearing that. We heard that during the first election. How many people said they were going to move? Hell, Snoop Dogg said he was going to move. Now Snoop Dogg supports Trump. I mean, come on. A lot of people, especially celebrities, I'll leave the country. Bye. Go your ass somewhere else. See how it works out for you. Armored says, does Wu support nonsense because of her party or because she actually believes it? Who knows what the hell's going through this woman's mind? And also points out, Armored says, people who say they'll leave the U.S. almost certainly won't. The only one I ever remember saying they were going to leave and did was Tina Turner. And she was retired anyway, so who cares? Who cares? Nature Nerd says kids have the same opinion and votes the same as their parents. And Kimberly on the Walmart subject says, you'd think the big brains of Walmart and Sam's Club could have foreseen higher shrink with self-checkouts. As I posted this question to my manager, they're willing to accept more theft rather than hire more cashiers. Well, again, hiring more cashiers, it's not just about the paycheck. It's about the insurance. It's about possible liability if anyone gets injured in the store or gets into an interaction with a customer that becomes violent. It's about the theft connected to employees. When I worked for Walmart 100,000 years ago, the biggest part of the D100 team or shrinkage was employee theft. Employees steal a lot, especially in big stores like that where it's hard to track them. Surveillance on employees, again, health insurance or other benefits, liability for if they don't show up for work or if they're late or they quit and you don't have anyone to fill their slot. The shoplifting is still negligible to how much trouble it is to deal with employees on a large scale in a big store like that, unfortunately. So there we go. Nature Nerd says he's all for U.S. territories able to vote. How about start with them before illegals? And Brian says, unfortunately, most of the celebrities won't leave despite having their private jets and financial status. No, they're not going anywhere. I wish they would. But I just wanted to add this on because we were already talking about her yesterday. That's about the stupidest thing I've heard. You're going to give kids the right to vote. And I guess this is the comment that would be made by someone who is, maybe she's so old she doesn't remember when she was a kid and was a moron, because most kids are not that smart. As a matter of fact, all kids are not that smart. There's no such thing as the child genius except in TV and movies. Urkel does not exist in real life. Okay? Kids are morons. I was a kid. I was stupid. I know. All my friends were stupid. Every kid I've ever met, comparing them, looking back and contrasting and comparing as an adult, wow, I can't believe I did this and that. I can't believe other people went along with it. We were pretty dumb. That's part of youth. You learn as you go, and hopefully you mature cognitively and emotionally. And you do better as time goes on and you learn. You know, that's what should happen. Unfortunately, you end up with a lot of kidults who have never emotionally or cognitively matured, even though they've physically matured. And we talked about that recently with that rapper. I showed his CNN interview, which was really pathetic. You might remember. Cameron, never heard of him, but you know, apparently he's from the early 90s. But Cameron is 48 years old and was talking like he was 13 or 14. Because up here, up in his mind, he never has grown or matured, unfortunately. But with that, we will go ahead and start signing off as we are at the top of the hour. Again, you are listening to and/or watching Coffee Talk. And if you would like to join the live portion, you can find it Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and on Prepper University, and that is at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can also find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Coffee Talk Chat. Special thanks to the kitty. Puck says cats. Yeah, and you see little girl still sleeping in the chair behind me. The only cat in the room right now. The rest of them are asleep. And by the way, the kittens are still doing good. I check on them regularly. Mama doesn't mind me handling them, but she still won't get close enough for me to connect with her. But that's okay. 5 kittens, 5 more. So I've got 20 I'm taking care of now until Halo House can help me get some more adopted. Special thanks to Rodney, who made a donation to the channel. Very much appreciated, Rodney. And thank you again, everyone who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation.